Hey, and
All right.
Art.
Well, we're live, guys. So welcome everybody to the latest HR Pod Squad, last one of the year, and this is the Canadian edition today.
No way,
We've
eh?
got
Take
we've
off,
got
Hoser.
Serge and Shelley from the Recruitment Flex podcast, and of course our friend Joel from Chad&Cheese, dressed up as a Canadian today. So welcome everybody.
Just wanted to make the guests feel at home because
That's
Well,
we
right.
thank
Americans we
you.
Americans have a bad rap for being, mean,
No.
nasty, gun-toting folks. So just want to make you feel at home. That's all.
I appreciate it, Joel. I really
Well, I
appreciate
think
it.
the real icing on the cake is the fact that you're drinking beer at 4 in the afternoon. So
It's 5 o'clock
I mean, that's
somewhere.
always the case.
That's
it
our
At
motto.
is. It is.
Yeah, you're a real Canadian, right? And you're
Yeah.
drinking a Labatt.
We say Labatt, but okay, Labatt. Sure, we'll go with that.
Well,
Sounds
I'm
like the
French.
new chatbot.
It's how we say it in French, Joel.
Coming to
Isn't your
recruiting in
wife
2022, Labatt from Canada.
Labatt? Okay, sorry, Labatt. Labatt.
Well, for the viewers out there, you all know me and Joel probably, but if you don't know Serge and Shelley, they do a show called the Recruitment Flex out of Canada. And Serge and Shelley, I want you to tell listeners what you guys do in your day jobs as well, because you're kind of practitioners in the space as well.
Well, I guess I'll go first, just because Serge always has to have the last word.
Ladies first.
So I am the president of my own firm, Higher Value Inc., and I'm a recruitment advertising agency. And I also do recruitment process audit and strategy for companies. Been at that now for I'm in my 8th year. But before that, I've been in talent acquisition since, and I'm going to put a number on it, 94.
I was still in high school. I put
A
that
good
out.
year. A good year.
1994.
Yeah, that's me during the day.
I think I was
Recruitment.
drinking Labatt in '94 as well.
Well, that's good, because so was I.
What about you, Serge?
Over to you, Serge.
Yeah, so I run a company called Trees and Seeds Talent Studios, which we focus, it's an RPO for startups primarily in the US in the tech space that are hiring into Canada. Also, similar to Shelley, I do a lot of consulting and process audits going across the board, but I also do some consulting for HR tech firms looking to expand their market and see how they should go out and do it. So, really busy in that end. I also consult for some tech companies that are recruiting in the space as well. So, basically, I like to call myself the jack of all trade when it comes to recruitment. There's really nothing that I can't or won't do. I'm pretty easy.
Excellent.
That's
Well,
what
I
she
know
said.
Joel's a whiskey distributor during his day job. So how's that going, Joel?
Whiskey contributor
Distributor.
or distributor?
You're just giving away free whiskey all day. What else do you do
Yeah,
during the day?
yeah. So I'm the co-host of the Chad and Cheese podcast, and our current seasonal giveaway is Scotch. So we've partnered
Scotch.
with
Okay.
our Scottish friends over at Candidate.id. We're giving away 3 bottles of bottles that retail at $1,000 or more. So even if you don't like Scotch, just put it away for a while and give it to your kid or whatever. Like make it a special gift, or just make it an investment. So yeah, we every season for two. This is year 2. Last year we gave away some Pappies, which I assume most of the Americans at least will know what that is. And this year we're doing Scotch.
Very good. And how'd you feel about that beating I gave you in fantasy a couple weeks ago? No comment? I'm in second place now. What do I win, by the way, if I do win? No, we lost them.
Oh,
Joel's
darn.
internet is on the craps.
You mean there's more on the line than just bragging rights?
Yes, he's giving away something. I don't know what it is. But
With
first
Shelley,
time playing first time playing fantasy football, and I'm 8-5. I'm in won 5 in a row, and don't call me a rookie. So
That's not too bad, actually. So, Shelley, we're going to have a Recruitment Flex Fantasy Football League next year.
No, we're
So
not.
get
You
excited
can do a
about it.
CFL version though.
No,
Yeah, we could do the CFL version. That's
no,
a
we're
good
not.
plan.
No, we're not, Serge. We're not. So you can just
You're
drop
not.
that idea.
You're
No,
not.
we're
You
not.
don't.
No, because you know what'll happen is Chad and Cheese will just say we're copying them. Like
Yes.
we
True.
can't. Like
Yeah.
if we can do anything but, because you know them, they're so sensitive about these things.
Yeah.
All right. As I was saying, Joel, how'd you feel with that beatdown I gave you in fantasy 2 weeks ago?
You had somebody blow up. Somebody just went
Well,
crazy in your
I remember
team.
Chad criticizing my Aaron Rodgers pick because I picked him number one pick, and
Yeah,
look at me now. That's all I got to say.
yeah. So
8-5, 5 in a row.
yeah, you're a rookie fantasy guy, and traditionally you never pick the quarterback first. So that was sort of a rookie mistake. But hey, beginner's luck. Maybe that was picking the MVP of the league was a pretty good move for you.
Yes, exactly.
So, what type of league is it? Is it like a keeper league or just straight up redraft next year?
I have no idea what kind of league.
No, I mean
it is.
it's a Yahoo league, straight up. We'll have playoffs here pretty soon.
Yeah. I'm in a couple league. I would say I'm a veteran now. So next year, I want to make sure I get on your league so I can show you how fantasy football is really done.
You got to sign up, man. It's competitive. People want in.
I will.
It's an exclusive club. I don't think there are any Canadians in it this year. We'll have to change that next year. It's not CFL though. You do know that.
I do. I
We were
do.
just talking about that. Serge Shelley, I just heard your last show. Actually, you were talking about the that Better.com CEO debacle.
Yes.
I read today that he's taking time off to focus on other things. So,
What do you think of that,
guys.
Chris? Like, so I'm really curious to see because I re-listened to it and I agree. It's so hard to lay off people remotely, but it's the approach that he took, and then the news the day after that he got 750 million in funding. It was just poorly executed, and it was hilarious to see basically everyone in PR or in communication just quit. Shelley yours was pretty strong that they should have found a way for him to do differently, but I don't think that's possible. Like I think he was set in his ways. There's no ways you could convince him that he wasn't going to do it this way.
So if I was in charge of PR, I would have said, if you do it, like I'm handing in my resignation now, to say, oh, we're all resigning after the fact, like that's so weak, so weak. No, that is the role of a PR person, is to stand in front of the bullet or the puck coming at you, for a Canadian analogy. But you really should. You should be standing. You're the goalie, man. Like, don't let him take that shot. And if it does, you've got to be there to filter it.
And you thought the HR director should have resigned, which I kind of agree with as I listened back to that. And where were they during this, right? There's a right way and a wrong way to fire people, and that was not the right way. But I do think that overall, Zoom firings are here to stay. Those aren't going away.
I agree.
But it's just the way you do it. They should have broke it up into smaller teams and, did it one-on-one and department heads and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it's crazy times.
This is America, Jack.
Shit's like, basically.
I mean, it's 10% of the workforce. It wasn't like they axed everyone. I mean, I thought it was more entertaining the email that was brought out by Forbes, where he called everyone dolphins, slow dolphins that get eaten by sharks or something like that.
Yeah, he called everyone a bunch of dumb dolphins, which is actually what we called our episode, is a bunch of dumb dolphins. I thought it was hilarious as well.
I think he was flexing for the investors. I think he was being like tough guy and I'm a badass.
Really?
Yeah, I think that was part of it. They just got like Serge said. I mean, they've gotten $1 billion.
Well, no, I read an article that said the investors are starting to pump the brakes.
It's too late. The money's already in the bank account.
Yeah, it'll blow over in a couple of weeks.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Airbnb will be the I guess, the poster child for how this is done. This is my, like, this is me. I've made bad decisions, or the, COVID, or like whatever it is. Like, he should have put it on him, not just been sort of cold and corporate. And sorry to say, if you're on this call, you're done. It definitely could have been more human, but Zoom firings are here to stay for sure. Because no one reads emails anymore. You can't, other than just not paying someone. I don't know how else that this will be done.
Well, for people that didn't show up, that's probably how they found out, is the next day logging in and their access didn't work, or their paycheck wasn't deposited, or I guess it would be deposited, but a bigger paycheck with a severance was deposited in their account. Because I know, like, working in corporate, you get tons of emails of invited to different webinars, the CEO, and I attend maybe like 10% of them. So that's one that you probably don't want to miss, though, if there's a meeting with the CEO in this case. But it'll be interesting to see how companies adapt to this moving forward, because you're right, Zoom firings are here to stay. But how do you set it up in smaller groups, different settings? There's just a better way of doing that. And the optics of getting 750 million a day after, and talking about market and efficiencies, like, it was just cold. It came really cold. And in December, come on, give me a break. A month before Christmas, a month before.
That I agree with. That's stupid.
Yeah.
There's no winners in that one.
Yeah.
Now, what was interesting to me as well is all the talk, all the chatter happened on Blind, which to me is like, it's not Glassdoor, it's not Indeed. Like, where the employees went to talk shit and vent about this was on Blind. And I kind of wonder if it's a moment where we say the day Glassdoor died was the day that this happened, because all of that went over to a much more interactive platform, in my opinion, in Blind, as opposed to Glassdoor. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that, but that's where the activity happened. And to me, I kind of live in the space of employee reviews, and that was really interesting to me, that that's where a lot of the conversation happened. And the CEO actually went on Blind anonymously, apparently, and started talking to the employees.
Yeah, what did he say? He came out and said that 2 weeks. Basically, most of these people that got fired were clocking in 8 hours, but only working 2 hours. So I don't think it was the right timing to do that. I think the guy's got a pretty big ego. I don't know. But I still think he'll be around in 6 months, a year from now. He's still going to be the CEO. This will blow over.
Yeah, he's not the first CEO with an ego.
No, it's kind of a prerequisite, right?
Most cases, yes, I would say so.
But the thing is, I never heard of Blind before this incident. This is the first news of Blind. I'd never gone through. Did a little bit of research.
Kind of a Silicon Valley thing, I think, right, Joel?
Yeah, it was certainly born in Silicon Valley. I mean, it's a
bigger in
8-year-old
tech space.
company. I mean, it's been around for a while. Definitely tech. And this company would fall under tech. I just think that the days of, like, I go to a site, I leave a review, and I click stars, and like that just feels very 2008 to me, with people talking like TikTok and video and Blind. Like, it just seems like the review space is moving away from what we think of as the employee review sites. And I'm sure if someone from Glassdoor, Indeed, were on the call, they'd say, "Oh, we get 100,000 reviews a day. You're insane. Like, we're still crushing it." But it just feels like a moment where we're moving away from, typing in on a keyboard what I think about my employer.
Well, that didn't stop a company called JobSage from launching this week. It's a new employer review site.
Yeah.
Jobsage.com. Yeah. So I wrote about it.
Good luck.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Is it unique?
Basically said. No, it looks like a Glassdoor.
Okay. Well, good luck.
So, yeah. Well, guys, so it's been quite a year, 2021. I'm just curious to kind of get all your thoughts on, what will you remember about this year? Looking, 10 years from now, when you look back at this time frame, what comes to mind?
Ladies first.
Okay. So when I think, I guess what I'm going to remember most about 2021, I had three things, but I think it was the realization of, like we've always had in recruitment what we called, um, candidate no-shows, right?
Ghosting.
But this was the year that candidate ghosting, I think it was the year where candidates really took control of the whole recruitment process. And the amount of loyalty ever shown to them was what we were getting back. So it was the year of karma, I think, right? Because for years, recruiters, we got addicted to getting hundreds of applicants. It's impossible to get back to people. Applicants, they grew accustomed to being ghosted by recruitment, and now the shoe's on the other foot. So that's what I think I'm going to remember most about 2021.
Yeah, I'll jump on that bandwagon because I do believe this was really interesting because this was the year that employees, candidates decided, I'm not going to take this shit anymore. Like, I'm not going to work for your culture, your crap culture, your micromanaging boss. I'm just not going to go work for those companies, and I'm going to do my own thing. We're seeing really a lot of people going into the freelance space, figuring out what they want to do, reskilling. There's so many factors of what the economy. The other factor that I think this year is going to be really in 2021 is going to be a year that we look back and what happened in recruitment. It's really the first year that senior executives or leaders in organizations really care about recruitment because it's dramatically impacting their business. Like I've done this for 20 years. I've rarely had a president, CEO care anything about recruitment. As long as people are coming in, that's all they cared about. Had issues getting budget, everything was a challenge. As this year, they've realized that if we don't pay attention to this, it's going to have a dramatic impact on our business and potentially also the economy as we move forward. So I think that was the biggest thing for me in 2021.
Joel, your turn.
Go ahead, Joel.
So I have five things. Can I mention all five, or do I have to pick one?
Well, let me piggyback on those guys first, and you can come in and talk a little bit longer. So yeah, I agree. It's Serge Shelley. It's to me, it's a reckoning happening in the job market today that we're seeing, and I think too for me, one thing I'll take away is just the overall assessment of work in general as a human, right? People are reassessing their lives and how they want to live, how they want to work. And to me, this is a massive sea change in the way people think about work overall, and it's not going back to previous levels anytime soon. So I think if you're an employer, you have to really wake up and recognize that fact and start treating people like humans rather than just bots and widgets inside your organization. So that's what I'll take away from this year.
Question for all three of you based on what you guys just said. Who's going to have the last laugh? Labor or capital?
How far ahead are we really thinking?
This decade.
Labor.
Labor? Shelley?
Yeah, labor.
Well, look, it's cyclical, right? So right now it's labor. But if the market, if the economy turns, then all bets are off.
To me, here's the flip side of that, right? Okay, workers have more power. They can demand more money. They can hold the cards right now. But to me, that's going to speed up automation. That's only going to speed up employers saying, well, okay, well, let's speed up the robots. Let's speed up the trucks that drive themselves. Let's speed up the hamburger makers So I think capital is going to have the last laugh. I think that the workers having the power now is only pushing capital and employers to automate more and more, because when you start doing the math of paying these folks, eventually people aren't going to pay $18 for a burrito at Chipotle. I don't care how much you pay the workers. And at that point, there's
we already do in Canada.
Well, that's
I can't get a
that's
decent
in,
burrito for under $18.
well, that's
So
in loonies. That's like $2 US. So it's totally different math
that's right.
on that. No,
Not,
I was
yeah, convert that to American dollars.
curious,
Yeah,
if
I
we
have
sit
to
down
agree
in
with you.
2030, who's going to have the last laugh? Where's the power going to be? And I think
Well, I'm
it
okay with some,
So
some automation, right? If they're replacing, the cashier at McDonald's, like nobody wants that job anyway. So if that job disappears, I don't think anybody cares in the long
yeah.
run.
Yeah. Well, I think automation was happening anyways. I think this is just
uh,
accelerating it. And
So
I don't think by 2030 we'll be in a position. I still think labor will have hold the cards, because even though a lot of these jobs, like we're talking about the service industry, we're talking about those types of roles, a lot of it will be automated, and thank God, because no one really wants to do that.
And
But all this,
in 10 years, the population is not growing as it once was either. People aren't having kids anymore. So I think
well,
Elon Musk was just talking about
except
this.
for
immigration isn't what
2021.
it was before.
Exactly, right?
If we go back to immigration the way it was, things could reverse.
yeah.
And
I
we
know
should
people
look at
aren't
immigration as part of the solution, right? Like, why aren't we letting people in the border to work these low
politics,
wage jobs, right? I mean, come on, let's
politics,
go.
politics.
Mm-hmm.
They have drugs. They're rapists, Chris. You can't let them in the door.
It's ridiculous, man.
But anyway,
Totally ridiculous.
Yeah,
I
you
go
know,
with
I think
mine.
so. I think
Yes,
you're
go.
right.
Go
So
ahead,
I just
Shelley.
wanted to tag on to what you said, Joel, because when I look back, when there's been a specific skill shortage for anything, if we think back to even 10 years ago, they used to have people walking around to your house to read your natural gas, your power meter. Well, it's all automated because nobody wanted that job and people were getting hurt all the time. So technology um, will replace those more mundane tasks. And wherever there's a deficit, it does cause technology to be accelerated. Here in even here in Canada, we saw like an extreme shortage of skill set for something called a power engineer. And so it was only a matter of time before there was a technology developed that you didn't have to have a human monitoring this piece of equipment, right? So I do believe that technology will fill in the gaps where labor doesn't want to do the work. I just don't know. I mean, they have automated tree pickers, right? Do they have automated carrot pickers?
I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
No, but I agree. I think in the context you're saying, Joel, is in 10 years from now, automation will be a lot more impactful, but there's also going to be new industries and new talent that is going to be needed.
Totally
That's
agree. And
going to,
more than likely, those jobs will be more knowledge-based jobs. They won't be flipping burgers
yeah.
and serving milkshakes, or
Mhm.
nothing against those folks. And a whole other thing is, should teenagers who are sort of out of those jobs go back to doing some of those jobs to start getting some of that experience? But that's a whole other issue. I just think people with calculators are saying we're paying how much for these people, and we could pay how much for technology to do this. Let's speed up that technology piece and get rid of this really high cost, pain in the ass hiring
Mhm.
people, human being thing. And I think that's going to be expedited because of the
Yeah.
$15, $20 an hour jobs. That's all.
So Joel, tell us about your 2021. What's your
What will
5
you
points?
remember most about
Yeah,
2021?
so I wrote down some stuff. I'll make it quick. So I definitely had labor had a moment over capital, which all you guys talked about. For me, certainly in our podcast, Chris can reflect on this as well. Is that the amount of money that came in our space was totally ridiculous. It was totally Looney Tunes, crazy town. Chris and I can remember days when if you got $50 million, you were boats and hose, man. It was like cocaine and champagne. And now we just yawn at someone getting $50 million. If you're not getting
It's
100
pocket
to
change.
500 million dollars, it's like, who gives a shit? And that's crazy. Like that cannot last. So that really stood out to me. Diversity, to me, you can't deny that people actually started budgeting for diversity programs. People started actually putting people of color on boards of directors that should have been doing a long time ago. Nike, companies that you think of should be doing that, finally started doing it. I realized that I miss people. This Zoom thing is fun, but it sucks. I would much rather be at a bar with you people, uh, drinking whatever, talking shop. Like I've really realized while I hate most people, being amongst people is really oxygen for me, and that's been really tough the last 2 years for me. And then the last thing I had was I think we're at peak podcasting. I think Chris and I remember the blog phenomenon in the mid 2000s when everyone had a blog. Everyone had something to say for about 9 to 10 blog posts, and then
Yeah.
they were kind of done with it. And I think that we're done with everyone having a podcast. Like, it's just you can't have this many podcasts, and people are going to get started. They're going to have 5 to 10 episodes in them,
Yeah.
and they're going to have 4 listeners and say like, "Why am I doing this?" And they're going to just fade away.
Well,
I
what's
agree.
the,
Those are my 2021 takeaways.
so what's the stat around that? I think most podcast episodes don't go past 6.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see that. Let's go to the point that you have on funding. So $17.5 billion was spent on HR tech this year, and the highest before was in 2019, which was 5.3 billion. Like, how do we explain a threefold increase in spend on the HR tech space? Like, what's happened?
The hiring stuff, it's become so challenging that investors are willing to throw money at anything now. But we've hit peak HR tech, I think. I mean, I don't think we're going back to these levels next year.
You don't
Really?
think
I
so?
just can't see it. Nah, I can't see it. I mean, there's so much money in the space. It's ridiculous, like Joel said. And if only 10% of these things are going to hit as far as a return on investment.
Right.
But I just can't.
I think we're
I
going to
can't
hit
see.
20.
So the debate, Joel, is 2022 more HR tech funding or less than last year? I say less.
Has everyone said something?
No,
No.
Oh, I get to go first this time.
you go first.
Sure.
Oh, no chance. No chance. I'm calling for 50% decrease or more. I'm probably more like closer to 25. Like there's just interest rates are going up. Money's not free anymore. Like it can't.
There's not even enough people to staff
ZipRecruiter
these HR
wasn't
tech startups.
huge. iSIMS is not going to be huge. I mean, I just it's time for these companies to go public. It's time for these companies to either blow up or get acquired. Like that's what's going to be fun to talk about. I don't think no way the money flows, in my opinion, like it did in 20 and 21.
No.
What's your take,
So-
Shelley?
Well, so here's what I don't understand is, the sudden pop up. It was like the pop up everywhere of all these tech firms, and a lot of them really weren't thought out. You know what I felt like even when Serge and I interviewed a few people throughout the year, but I remember feeling like they're trying to capitalize on the fact that I worked for Google. But when you really looked at what were they trying to fix and what was this tech and to someone who's maybe not plugged into the real life problems we're trying to solve, those investors, they started throwing money at it because this guy must know what he's talking about because he's former Facebook or their former Google people or their former Microsoft people, LinkedIn people, whatever. But the fact was they weren't solving any real problems. So, I think those will evaporate. I think what we will see is some really, really good solutions that will fill in those blank spots in HR tech.
I'm going to go against everyone and say there's actually going to be more funding in 2022 than there was in 2021.
Yes, I hope so.
And the reason is, and you mentioned, and it's a really good point, Joel, money has been really, really cheap. But do you see any impact? Do you see the Federal Reserve increasing interest rates this year? I just don't see it. And I know the inflation rate, but I still don't see it. I still think it's going to be very steady when it comes to the Federal Reserve rate, the interest rates that are going. The other factor is like this year we've discovered a ton of problems that a lot of people never realized there was this problem, and it's put new eyeballs, different investors that have never thought about HR tech into this space. So I think the year where it's going to crash dramatically is going to be the year after. And I still think this year we're going to see the most acquisitions we've ever seen. I think we are going to see a lot of big guys get either acquire or get acquired. I was wrong in my prediction that this year that ZipRecruiter was going to get acquired by Recruit, which obviously didn't happen. But I think we're going to see some massive acquisitions next year.
You're going to read a lot of terms not disclosed next year.
Yes. But
I hope
what
you're
was
right.
your
I hope the money flows because it makes for great podcasts.
Oh, I agree. What was your most surprising funding or acquisition, Joel?
Funding or acquisition? Man, put me on the spot.
I'll read you some
I
names.
think probably the chatbot thing didn't work out like I thought it would, and that's not a specific company, or I think just Ali Ogan, and you mentioned the Google founder thing that popped in my head. I mean, Maya, I think Zor will be gone. You see a lot of overseas. Like, I expected to read a lot more of next level of funding for these companies, from 50 million to now they've got 200 million, or like instead of that, they all sold off. And now you have, Paradox apparently is the alpha male of the group. And so I guess that shocked me. I felt like that was a floor falling out that I didn't expect. But
Serge, I'll say,
yeah, like Remote and Deal and Canvas, and I mean, just so much money. Like, there's just no way those companies can survive that much capital.
No.
Like, what I was surprised about was the the huge rounds, like the $500 million rounds. Like, Job and Talent just got that out of Madrid, and they want to come to the U.S. now. And try and tackle the blue collar job market, and there's already a bunch of players already in that. That kind of surprised me. Just that amount of money is just.
There's so many trails of dead bodies of companies trying to go into the U.S. and make it a go. If you're not American, to make it in America is almost impossible in every aspect, from even like a retail store going into the U.S. They Canadian Tire did not survive in the U.S. Like, how can you imagine that? That's like a
hold on. Target didn't make it in Canada, so it works.
Fair enough. Well, Target was more execution, right? Target failed in Canada because it was so poorly executed. But
as soon as Americans see favorite written with a U, they're out. It sounds simple, but it's true.
Hey.
Favorite, honor, yeah. You
labor,
use too many U's. Labor,
color. It goes on. Were you guys surprised by the PandoLogic acquisition?
Yeah, that was a bit surprising because it was a company that wasn't HR tech.
No, you weren't. Chris, you were.
Yeah, because everyone gets acquired by another HR tech company, so that's kind of the outlier this year.
Why weren't you surprised, Joel? Are you frozen again?
Uh-oh.
Shelley, were you surprised? Sorry, I should have told you anyway.
I'm not. I wasn't really following it, honest to God. Other than I know you're excited about it, but I mean that stuff is meh. Really, like unless you're some insider. I mean, to me, it's rather meh.
Well, let's talk about acquisitions in Canada. Sorry, Chris, I'm taking over your show.
Yeah. Could you just stop, Serge?
Yeah, I'll stop.
Let Chris run his show.
Sorry, Chris.
Well, let me ask you guys a question about inflation. So I was thinking about this today. Everyone's talking about inflation. It's, people are saying it's going up. I'm curious how you guys are seeing it in your daily lives, right? Like, I go to the grocery store, there's a few less things on the shelf. The steak is a little bit more expensive now, but, has it really hurt me as a consumer? No, not yet. But what are you guys seeing there in Canada? And Joel, what's your opinion on is inflation hurting the average, American right now?
Well, Serge, you've got more mouths to feed than all of us. So,
Yeah, well, definitely
who's your
seeing the
baby
impact.
maker over here?
Well, there's no doubt that
Chris?
inflation is impacting because you're looking at what 6.8% in the U.S. was the latest numbers. In Canada, I think we're like 5.4%. It's going to have an impact at one particular point. Am I seeing it day to day? Me going to the grocery store? Yeah, a little bit. Like I did the groceries for the first time in like 6 months. Generally, my wife did it, and I was shocked of how much just stuff costs. Like I remember like buying like a bag of chip was like $7. It's like I thought my assumption was like $3.
$18 burritos, for God's sakes.
$18
Exactly.
burritos.
But
So
that
I
makes sense because we actually pay a living wage to food service workers. They actually make enough money that they can feed their own families. So yes, if you're going to be, and any restaurants that survived the lockdowns and COVID, yeah, the prices have gone up. Like my dad and I love to go out for dim sum, and two people, we would normally spend $40. Last time we went, it was 90. 90, and we didn't eat that much more than we normally would. So yes, if you are going to be going out and like going to restaurants, it is double.
yeah.
So, in terms of groceries, yes, I hear you, Chris. Like, am I feeling it? Well, it's a little bit more. Where I'm really seeing it is if you want to be waited on, like an actual
It's a lot of the goods
restaurant
that we buy, and I think once the supply chain problems do work their way out next year, I do think inflation is coming down, but that's my guess anyway. So I'm hopeful that's going to happen.
And does labor have that much of a leg up if their new salaries are still under inflationary numbers for what they buy every day? And I think if you do the math on that, it gets kind of interesting. I think that raise for minimum wage isn't quite what it was 2 years ago.
Perhaps, but it's still a good thing, right? Overall for the economy and for the American worker.
Well, the U.S. minimum wage has been the same since 2009. Like at one particular point,
Well, that's the
that's got to
federal
break.
wage. I mean, that doesn't really, I'm talking about the private sector, basically. That's taking care of itself these days in terms of the minimum wage.
Yes, because it's forced. The current condition has forced the situation, right? Like if not, I guarantee you,
So
business would
we've
still
raised
be
the floor
paying.
finally now, so it's there to stay, right? The floor is higher, and it's not going down anymore. So it's an overall positive effect for.
I'm still just saying it's, if you're paying more in rent, if you're paying more in gas, if you're paying more for food, like if ultimately, depending how much driving you're doing, where you live, like that bump in pay may not be as great as the folks of us who own property, our houses, whatever, that don't feel it as much. Like inflation is great if you own a house.
Yeah.
But if I'm renting, it kind of sucks. And a lot of those folks are renting. So anyway.
All right. Well, what else you guys want to talk about? Those are my topics.
What else was on the
hiring in 2022?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
what are your thoughts, Shelley?
So okay, good. I get to start first again. So I guess the after effect of 2021. So Google for Jobs now is saying you'll get a better rating, right? If you publish your pay rate. Everybody followed suit. And so for 2022, I'm dying to see what's going to happen. I mean, I've got what I think will happen. But with everyone now publishing their pay rates, candidates can now go in, they can see this job pays $59 an hour, this one pays $60, this one pays $61.50. Do you know what I mean? Like it will drive the market up in a lot of sectors.
Is that a law in Canada?
And so
you have to do that now?
Sorry?
Is that a law in Canada?
No, I'm saying so Indeed gives your rating on Indeed is favored. You'll get a better result if you publish the pay rate of your job.
Your
So it's the
ratings or
market
rankings? Ratings or rankings?
Your ranking.
So
Search
search
ranking.
results,
Okay.
right?
Yep. All
So
right.
the search results, you'll get a better candidates that, sorry, backing up. So employers are now on the bandwagon, certainly here in Canada. If you went on and like a high demand job would be heavy equipment operator. And you've got 5 pages of postings, and those jobs, like on the page one, out of 10 postings, 9 of them have the pay rate published. I've never seen that before. So what will that mean for hiring in 2022? You know, if everybody is now being transparent about what this job pays, and you can only buy your way to the top so many times in the search results, what will this mean for hiring?
Well, in the U.S., that's still a problem in the U.S. anyway. I mean, most employers still don't put their salaries on the jobs. Let's face it. I mean, I'm on Google right now. I just did a search on sales jobs in New York. Ironically, the first job is from Google. It's a account executive, new business sales. There's no salary on it that I can see here.
Well,
Yeah.
in Colorado has a law, right? That you have to publish your salary
Yeah.
rates, which kind of like screwed them when it came to
Range.
remote work. Because no one was posting their jobs in Colorado because they had to put their range in. So it's kind of a catch
Yeah.
22
Why
there.
is there such a resistance there?
It's just it's part of the way HR has done business over the years. It's hard to change.
It's
right?
the way
just,
we do it, and we like it, Canada. All right.
Damn it!
I mean,
I don't want to
it's
change.
I think people, yeah, I mean, I think it's they think of it as a competitive advantage, right? If I show all my cards, I'm at a disadvantage, and it goes to that, I guess, poker mentality. And we think of it as more of a negotiation,
Yeah.
not a transactional. Like, okay, I'm a programmer, and I'm worth this much, so like we're good. I think the American mentality and culture is like, I think I'm worth more than that, and I'm going to go negotiate a better deal, or I'm going to shop around and see what I can do. I don't think it's just, I think the culture is different.
Yeah. And what's changed is people no longer ask about what your salary was. They ask you, what do you want to make? That's the new way they filter out candidates down here anyway.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And look, a lot of the surveys now are people are, I mean, like flexibility is more important, or benefits, or, I mean, everyone's different. It seems like salary isn't like the number one reason or the only reason, particularly with younger folks, why they take a job.
I, I disagree. I think we say that salary. A lot of companies say that salary is not the most important thing, but when
I
it
think if
comes
all
down to
things,
yeah, when it comes to it, like I live in this space and I recruit every day, and I can tell you that people, the number one thing they care about is salaries, because the factors that, like we talk a lot about culture being a great place to work. No one wants to work.
So how many would take less to work from home 100%?
Well, right now in
How
my
many would
space,
work for less if you got Fridays off?
well, I think that would change the game. Yeah, I
That's what I'm
completely agree.
saying. The game is changing. Like that's what I'm saying. Not
But
all
let's
jobs are the same.
No, but you are at a serious disadvantage if you don't offer hybrid work for a role that could be hybrid, say an office type role. Like the expectation from the job seekers here in Canada is I'm going to be working from home. I'll go in the office when I want to. And the money better be damn good, because if it's not good, I'm going to go to the competitor. So I don't know if those are really advantage, because everyone is offering that. Like if you're a software developer, working from home is
I
like
don't
it's table stake.
I don't know that they are all offering that. And with someone like Google saying if you work away from the office, we're going to pay you less based on what your zip code is. And that's
we'll see
Google.
how long that lasts. I mean, if nothing else, we saw in 2021 who flip-flopped. Nope, everybody's coming back. Oh, no, maybe not. Well, maybe in December. No, let's wait till February. Like, you know what? They come out with these big bold statements, and then the market will pressure them. But I'd
Yeah.
ask you to think about being transparent about money. not just in our elitist lives here where we're recruiting these top talent, super educated, software developers, but think about those in manufacturing. These are like, where you are in a market where you're competing with, package sorting versus manufacturing line versus assembly versus sorting potatoes or washing spinach, right? It's those jobs that are now being more transparent about what the money is. And I think hiring in 2022, if you want to attract in these more industrial setting marketplaces where you've got, maybe you're not in the heart of New York with a population of 10 million people available to you, they are starting to be more transparent about what their pay rates are, and they have to be.
I think that's largely driven by the nature of the workforce now. In other words, if I'm a waiter, and whether I serve burritos or steaks or whatever, I want to know if I go to this restaurant next door, I'm making $1.50 more an hour. So being transparent with that makes a lot of sense, because it's what someone chooses that job for. Whereas a knowledge-based worker, it's much more complicated than that. If I'm a warehouse worker, I can do warehouse anywhere. If I'm a truck driver, I can drive trucks for anybody. So pay transparency, I think, is making more sense in those spaces than the knowledge-based workforce.
By the way, I forgot to shout out to the few listeners we have on the line here. We've got Michael Yingers on there from Resume Civ, Sharon Hancock, Jermaine Robinson, and Cindy Saulnier's on the call there. What's up, guys? Glad you tuned in. Feel free to say hello in the chat.
Hopefully it's the end of bad names for companies. Resume Civ.
I'm sorry.
I say that because I gave him shit on Firing Squad.
Yeah, I heard that.
Exactly, I heard that on Firing Squad, which he did a really good job, by the way, as well. Like I thought he did amazing on.
What was the name of that company you had on last time?
That's because we bring out the best in people.
Is that it?
Yeah, we bring out the light in people, the inspire.
So has nobody else got what hiring in 2022 is going to be?
Oh, I think it's going to loosen up. If I'm answering, look, I think a lot of these people that were trading GameStop, buying crypto, getting stimmies, driving DoorDash,
non-fungible tokens too.
Well, they would have been buying. I don't know how many were selling.
I love how you say that, Shelley.
But I think a lot of those people are going to realize that it's not as good as I thought it was, and my guess is that's going to come around tax time when they have to pay taxes. They're going to realize, oh shit, maybe I should go back to work. And I think a large number of those people that have been living life are going to say, I got to go back to work. So I think it's going to loosen up. I think we're going to get more people in the pipe. More activity is going to go on. I think that's going to be 2022. It won't. I don't think it'll be as congested as it was in 21.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I think what's going to happen is a lot of boomerang employees. I think we're going to see a lot of people that quit their really shitty job, went to work somewhere else, and realize that it's pretty shitty there too. And be like, well, at least I know the shit over here better, and they're going to jump back in. I think you're right. I think a lot of people have been selling feet pictures on OnlyFans and realize that you can only go so far, and now they're coming back into the workforce. So I think we'll see that as well. I think the freelance area is definitely going to go back to more full-time work. Not totally though. The other factor, I think we're going to see more immigration. I think we're going to see we have to.
I hope so. Yeah.
Both in the U.S. and Canada, although your immigration policies have been a godsend to Canada, because the amount of talent that we've been able to get in the high-tech sector, it's been phenomenal. Like, you're looking at Toronto and Vancouver right now, they're really competing with major centers in the U.S. as far as where tech talent wants to go. And that's thanks to your Mr. Orange that was there for 4 years. And so I think it will loosen up, but it's still going to be crazy in the context of, because let's not forget, recruiting was getting crazy before the pandemic hit. Like 2019 was extremely challenging to recruit. Right. I think the one thing that we're going to see is even more and more and more is the need for recruiters. and real recruiters that actually do the job right, not just order takers or transactional recruiters, but real recruiters. I think that will not go down. I still think there's going to be a high demand for that in 2022.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's yeah, and I hate to be an HR person in these last 2 years. I mean, they've taken a beating, I think, over the COVID and the vaccine mandates, all that stuff. I mean, I kind of hate to be an HR person right now, but you guys agree?
Oh, I agree. HR has been the most challenging job, I would say, in the last 2 years. And I'm not even like take away recruitment, just HR.
Yeah.
Having to put these policies in place, try to figure out what's going to happen. Do you bring people back in the office? Do you not bring them back? People complaining that, hey, I
Yeah.
don't have my vaccine. It's
There was no
against the
playbook for this
law.
stuff in the HR
Yeah.
manual. And
And think about the burnout for these folks.
Yeah.
Like the burnout of HR folks is we're going to
Mhm.
see a dramatic impact of a lot of them just getting out of HR because they're burning out. Like I'm seeing across every organization, and the pressure is on them for a group that's not used to handle the type of pressure that they're
right,
getting.
they're more
Like
in the background usually.
I
Yeah,
agree.
it's a tough job these days, that's for sure.
Mhm.
All right, guys. Well, it's 4:55. I think we've run our course. So I appreciate all you guys joining us. It was a great conversation, and can't wait to get the replay out there. So I'd like to wish everybody a happy holidays and a happy new year, and we'll see you in 2022. So
Thank
Take
you
off,
so much.
losers.
Have a Merry Christmas there, Joel. And
Thank
make sure
you.
follow
You
all
too
your-
there, Serge. You too there.
You do there.
go
You
Canada.
too there. Yeah.
Oh, there.
Thanks
Chris,
for that, Joel.
thanks for having us
Thanks,
on.
Chris.
All right,
Appreciate
guys.
being on the
Have
Have
show.
a good one. See you later.
Bye.
We out.